Seminole patchwork involves cutting tiny pieces of material, strips of material, and sewing them together to make a pattern. And the patterns can represent colors, they can represent animals, they can represent directions, they can represent anything that the designer wants to show with their patchwork through the colors or the images.
The techniques for creating Seminole patchwork have evolved over the years since we started. Originally, before we had machines, we used to do applique, and the applique was made with strips on top of the clothing instead of sewn into patchwork. And then as we got access to machines and better materials, we started using the machines to actually make the patchwork that you see today, where the designs were simpler with maybe 2 or 3 strips or 2 or 3 steps that we could tear the fabric. We didn't need to use scissors and rotary cutters like today, but as things have evolved, we're using modern machines, we're using rotary cutters to get real precise cuts on our patchwork, and they've become more intricate and detailed.
As time went on, the Seminoles got more decorative and more colorful and added more trimming, and they've just grown throughout time to where even tiny small patchwork are now large elaborate pieces of patchwork. And just as time has grown, so has the patchwork, and every piece is just throughout time is just as beautiful through the decades, and it's a beautiful craft to see to grow throughout time.
It's definitely become more detailed, and I would say one of the biggest things is fabric. We, traditionally only had cotton, access to cotton, only to certain colors, and now we have lace, we have sequins, we have lame, we have satin, and people are using them in so many creative ways, in so many different ways. They're putting them in patchwork, they're putting it into the actual outfit, and some styles are even modern day clothing that you would see walking down a runway. The Seminole seamstresses are also making their own design and their own take on that type of clothing. So you've seen pretty much an explosion in styles and designs and materials, and I think it's great.
I like to make the tiniest patchwork possible, and I also like to, if I can, create a color pattern with it. And I like that style because I like to honor decades past where it seemed like there was only tiny patchwork, and it's very eye-catching. And I also like to do large elaborate pieces where I like to incorporate as much color as I can, and as much detail as I can. I find both styles a challenge, but it's also ultimately beautiful once I finish.
As the seamstresses have gotten access to better materials, better equipment, and frankly had more time, now that we're modern, we don't have to do all of the work that we had to do in our traditional camps. And now you really have time where you could sit and you could sew all day and really, make some beautiful items.
There seems to be a constant effort to preserve Seminole patchwork. I like to look at old pictures and old garments, and I like to see the detail. I like to see how small or what kind of detail that they use and be inspired from that, or even just recreate it to preserve that in my garment, as well as looking towards the future. Creating garments that do have these same details, as far as creating traditional clothing or even contemporary clothing that can be worn today but still says, I am a Seminole individual.
Now we're able to sell it, and we have a lot of access to markets and like powwows and the fairs, and then community gatherings people set up and sell, and we have seamstresses that's their main job, you know. They make their clothing, they sell their clothing, and they do very well with it because there's a demand.
We invite you to see the new patchwork exhibit at the AhTahThiKiMuseum and also come to the American Indigenous Art Celebration.